Best of R / malicious compliance episode 92. Subscribe for edit videos daily. So while studying my food service bar and barista level 3 certificate, I managed to get a job in hospitality, but starting out as a dishwasher that would lead to an all-rounder. So bar, waitress, barista and dishwasher. Funny thing is, when I got my contract, the list of duties I got was legit a blank page. It had literally stated I was only a dishwasher. Anywho, my first 2 weeks of working there, the head chef was fired due to excessive drinking on the job. Having 1 or 2 was allowed, and she also came in completely high a few times. To top it off, she also kept taking breaks without communicating with the restaurant / bar. These breaks were 2 weeks at a time. She got let away with doing this a few times because at certain stages she was running the damn business for the stuck-up owners. They were good people but very new to owning the business, so they liked when people were up their butt. As I said, they were good people, just not good owner. One of them tried to sabotage someone getting a job elsewhere because the waitress tried to leave them. So after the head chef left, the sous took over but walked out after the first day of being in charge. We had to close the restaurant for 2 weeks until we could find someone to take over. We had a third chef but he didn't want the responsibility. At the time I said to him I can learn kitchen hand if they needed me. We also had to get another kitchen hand, and she ended up being my family friend who worked there in the past, so she knew how to do more things I could. Her sister came in to help any shifts her sister couldn't do. They also didn't get a contract stating this for an entire 2 months. When they found someone to cover being head chef, she came in act all nice and all saying things like she doesn't want to act like the boss, that this is a group effort, etc. She said all the right things, but she was told that I was hired to be a kitchen hand. No, I offered to help in kitchen and I had not been shown a damn thing. She was okay at first with training me. It got to the point where I knew how to cook everything on the bar menu and was running a Monday by myself. Me running a shift I shouldn't have been on the bare minimum wage. I live in New Zealand, which doesn't do tips, and the minimum wage was $17.70 at the time. I was into my 3rd month of being there and the head chef got annoyed at me over little things. She changed how to do some items on the restaurant menu and expected me to know what she wanted to happen. This 3rd month I was in a very bad mental state and was in tears multiple times a day due to the head chef words when she was stressed. Her words, anything she said during that shift says in that shift it doesn't roll to the next one. I work stupid split shift 2 hours over lunch and then dinner. And she said a lot, but only to me. She started treating me like I wasn't worth her time to train, so she did just that. When we had a big day with bookings one night, her stupidity only put 3 people on, and the sous chef called in sick. So she tries both of my family friends, and one had a graduating party and the other had already made plan. So it was just us. Now I was struggling because I knew the bar menu but only half of the restaurant's menu. So the head chef actually yelled at me for not knowing something I wasn't taught and complained about me speaking back to her, which I was not. I was explaining what I was doing and that's why I couldn't do what she said immediately. At the end of this shift she yells at me saying I should do my fucking job. This is where my malicious compliance comes in. I turn up the next day, sat on the seat in the dishwashing area and played on my phone. My head chef came in and said, why haven't I done any prepping, cleaning, etc. Me, what do you mean? I am just doing my job, HC. So why haven't you done anything? Me, because my contract has me stating I am a dishwasher with no jobs because of a blank page, HC. Are you serious? She said a bunch of profoundly inappropriate sentences I cannot say. Let's just say they weren't nice. I still got paid that day. After this she kept overstaffing shifts, and guess what? I am the first person she calls to have it off. Gotta remind this, the other 2 kitchen hands both had other full-time jobs, and my stupid ass said yes to have it off cause I thought she had already rang the other 2. The second time this happened I was working over lunch. She said she over-rostered and that I don't need to come in and wanted to fight for my hours cause they kept getting less and less. Plus the other 2 kitchen hands on that night were both at their other jobs doing 8 hours days. So, me, HC, have you tried ring the other 2? HC, no, because you've already working today, you can have it off me. The other 2 have been doing 8-hour shifts at their other job though, and this was my only job. HC, well, that isn't my fault. I came up with the roster before their other jobs. I backed down frightened. Continued to do my work until a dessert order came through stating 2 cheesecake. I was told that they were meant to be Ito muses but no change that on the docket, so 30 minutes later I went to make 2 cheesecake. Whoops. Mistake found and corrected, but gotta tell you I didn't know what Ito muses were, wasn't taught. I asked HC but all she told me was it was cream meringues and passion fruit pulp. She also said there were 2 meringues and a chiller I needed to use first. Couldn't find them, did however find 2 small pavlovas. LOL. So I did up a meringue cream and passion fruit pulp dessert, but I apparently did it incorrectly. This time HC showed me what to do. Who knew it was meant to be in a water glass with crumbled pieces of meringue? And who knew that pavlovas was the same as meringues? I clearly was not told. I for the first spoke back and got a devil's scratch. I only pointed the fact that those pavlovas weren't meringues. Because of her yelling at me I wound up in tears and walked out that day. Mind you, I have just turned 19 and this was my first experience in hospitality. I was so upset I drove to my sister's home. No one there went to my family friend's place. No one called them, they were in town, so we meet at my home. I live with my parents. My parents and my family friend's parents pissed off. My dad used my phone to call the owners and told them what happened. Owner 1. It was your daughter that wasn't listening and everyone likes working with HC. My dad. I am not sure if you understand our family, but we are very good friends with the other 2 kitchen hands' parents and they are in the living room saying that's not what we have heard. Owner then got quiet. I took them to small claims stating I was forced out of this position and I got a hefty sum of money and they had to continue paying me till I found a job. My friends then left shortly afterwards and I've heard that the HC is now quitting because of many claims to her yelling at co-workers. Thank you. Next. TLDR at bottom. Edit. This was about 2 months ago before the pandemic, and I bought 5 in the hope of getting a £5 note back. I was at the supermarket. I needed £230 for my daughter's club, who only accept cash payments. The machine outside only had £20s. Typical, and I have a max withdrawal of £250 a day. I went in and bought 100 cigarettes in the tobacco counter, using my card, and asked whilst I was there if I could get £2.10 notes. I was refused. We don't make change here, sorry. You'll need to buy something. Do you want your receipt? She asked. I declined and left the counter. I was about to leave and then I thought, sod it, I'll play your game. I went and grabbed £5 sandwiches from the cooler nearby and headed back to the same lady. Slow evening. She rang me up and asked, do you want your receipt? Again. Without missing a beat I replied, yes I do. I need to return them now. She looked perplexed and I wanted the lady a station down from her and asked to return the items. She said, what's wrong with them? Me, oh nothing. I just need a change. Oh, we don't give change, sorry. Me, yes I know. Why I bought these. Now I wish to return them. Oh, you can't do that. Me, these are items I no longer want with a valid receipt. Can I please have my money back? Apostrophe. She sighed and looked over at another worker drone next to her, who just shrugged and told her it would be quicker to do it. So I got my change. Admittedly she gave it me back in coins, I think just to try to annoy me, but I played their game and won. TLDR. You don't make change. Okay, I'll buy some chilled stuff to return so you have to do more work for the same outcome. Thank you. Next. TLDR. I have narcolepsy. It is an incurable lifelong condition requiring prescription medications that have many off-label uses/abuses like GHB and stimulants. My generic medication costs my insurer less than $25 per month and they're hassling me with an annual prior authorization process. I'm turning one of their BS justifications for this into better care for me at a higher cost to them. I have been with the same employer and insurer taking a controlled substance medication for several years to manage symptoms from an incurable illness. After an initial prior authorization several years ago, my insurer now requires annual prior authorizations to improve my care, BS, and reduce their costs. I complained and got this quote, "Our bodies are dynamic, and as such, it is beneficial to reevaluate therapies every 1-2 years. Describing their crappy process would be an even greater wall of text. Summary, this wouldn't be a big deal except for ye olde ancient fax processing and their inflexible policies resulting in the delay of my treatment. I did everything I could, but they hassled me several times about my family doctor not participating in their electronic system. I'm sure every insurer has their own e-system, but that same fax machine works for all of them. Complaints through my very large employer's HR got me a dead end with non-answers. Now I have get to do this every year. Simply prodding my doctor to jump through these hoops annually only serves to delay my care. Let's instead follow the spirit of their process and improve my care. I'm paying extra for the PPO health plan and usually exceed the family maximum out of pocket per year. This means I hit my cap faster and won't end up paying any extra. Let's get started. I feel better already. Instead of 7 years of family doctor visits every 6 months to renew my hard copy only controlled substance prescription, I'm now going back to a neurologist for the specialized care my condition requires. I'm not a monster, so I'm not seeking a doctor that uses fax instead of their electronic authorization. I just don't care how they do it. I still need to see my family doctor just as often for my annual physical and other needs. Yes, I agree that my body is dynamic and I have not had a multiple sleep latency test for many years to determine how my illness has changed over the years. I will check to see when I'm eligible for another test each time I have to hassle my doctor to do the prior authorization forms. My dynamic body has built a tolerance to the stimulant I have been taking for many years. I have been feeling more tired lately despite taking my medication. It is time to try something new. This new medication likely will not have a generic equivalent. There are only so many prescriptions to try before you have to use meth. Unfortunately, the insurer is incapable of learning that they should have left me TF alone. I'm getting something for delayed treatment, time, and hassle. Edit. I used the wrong words. My treatment so far is not quite yet the triplicate controlled substance scary stuff. It is the stuff that I need forever but need to be monitored for long-term effects. I have it easy. I can get 6 months of prescription and refill 3 months at a time. I feel for you that are stuck on controlled substance prescriptions. I dread the day that I have to up the ante to controlled substances. Thank you. Next. I posted this in petty revenge and it was suggested you all may enjoy it too. A guy I served with was on an infantry exercise with this well-known total douche of an officer. No one liked this guy, for several good reasons including that he had complete little big man syndrome. He had been giving them grief the whole time. They really did not like this guy. Officers need to be able to lead the mission, but also look after their soldiers. A bad officer can make things pretty miserable. Now, the guy was pretty short, around 5'6" or so, but it is not a big deal as long as you do your job, which this guy also sucked at. Anyway, he had to go off to O group and he threw a shovel at one of his soldiers and said dig my trench for me and left. Okay, fine. The guy was a monster. About 6'5" or so, and he dug a trench. He dug one so deep that the other guys had to help him out when it was done. Late that night, the O group is done and the little officer is on his way back. Everyone is on the defensive and being quiet and tactical, so he creeps up and asks where his trench is. They point out the glow sticks that are marking the spot. The guy carefully heads over and hops in. Whoosh, gone. He can't yell for help, since they are on defensive and being quiet. He can't climb out very well, especially in the dark. He could not do anything, except wait for morning, when they were allowed to stand down and the guys came to pull him out. Apparently he did a better job looking after his troops after that. Thank you. Next. So I wake up very early in the morning, around 3 AM, to go to work. Naturally, I spend a lot of my weekends catching up on all the sleep that I miss. One night, my wife woke me up at about 11 PM on a Saturday night, asking me to read her a bedtime story. Now, at first, I got really annoyed, because I was sleeping like the dead before she shook me awake. But rather than get angry or say no, I just said okay, and went to our library. I'm a big Warhammer 40k fan, with the Space Wolves, or the Route to Anyone in the Know, is my favorite Space Marine chapter. I decided to pull out Prospero Burns by Dan Abnett and read it to my wife. I got about 3 very gory, very descriptive pages in before she said, "I'm sorry, I will never wake you up again. Please stop reading." I said great, and immediately went back to sleep. She hasn't asked me since. Thank you. Next. So back when I was little my mom would fill the bath for me, and I would always say that it was too hot. She would tell me not to complain and just sit down, and most of the time she was always right, and I'd get used to it. Most of the time. This was when I was around 4. My mom made the bath for me, but this time it was a lot hotter than it usually was. I told my mom it was too hot. Don't complain. Just sit down. So I do. My mom left the room and I was just sitting there, waiting to get used to the water. So about 10 minutes passed by and my mom came back in to check on me. My entire head was covered in sweat. It was just seeping out of my pores. As soon as my mom saw me, she ran to the faucet and turned on the cold water. She cupped her hand under it and began throwing the water at my face, which instantly cooled me down. After that, until I got old enough to take baths on my own, she began asking me if the water was too hot. Thank you. Next. Scrub vehicle after pressing send to save time. Work at car wash with a tunnel where I load cars onto a track, then press a button to send cars through tunnel. Required to scrub rear of vehicle with brush because tunnel doesn't clean the rear. To save time, I was told to press send to send car through tunnel, and as vehicle is moving, walk behind it to scrub. Problem is, some cars are dirty as hell. I'm not quick enough to get all the corners and underlips to get all the dirt. So instead doing it the way boss told me to, I clean rear then press the send button. A little slower but better customer service. Boss got on to me twice about doing it this way. So what do I do even though it's bad service and there's been a dramatic decrease in vehicles coming in? Press send and try to get all dirt, usually leaving skid marks here and there causing me to have to rewash, send the car back through the tunnel, wasting time, materials, and money. 2. Don't power wash bay anymore. There's 4 bays for people to use to wash vehicle. If bunch of mud is on bay floor, I clean it or vehicles won't use it. Well, boss seen me spraying out bay and told me to stop. Today a vehicle came in and left mud all over. Didn't clean it. When the rush came, all bays were being used except that one. 3. Cut me off and didn't let me explain why a vacuum wasn't working. One of the vacuums is clogged up, has been for days. The clog is somewhere near the back end. I tried to unclog it but because I didn't have the right tool, wasn't able to. Boss finds it, sees it's clogged at the front end, which is usual, then confronts me. When's last time you checked the vacuums? Me, trying to remember, not sure. It's been. You need to check it every hour. Come look at this. One of the vacuums is clogged. Me, following him to the vacuum, trying to explain what happened. If it's the middle vacuum, it's clogged in the back. I need a clamp too. No, come look at this. Shows me the front end of vacuum and I see trash. Me, yes sir. I still need a clamp to take the. No you don't. Just pull that junk out and make sure to check it often. Me, yes sir boss. Proceeds to unclog front end as boss leaves without giving me a chance to explain. Back end is still clogged and barely pulls any air. It's been going on 4 days now.